Hey everyone. All right. We're live. November 19th. Oh, here we go. Now we're live officially. November 19th. This dreadful 2020 year. Jeff Bruno, your outsourced CFO. YoCFO.com. And good to see everybody here, even though I can't see anybody. And hopefully I can add a few pieces of info for people as the year closes out here. I'll probably do one more of these in December. So for those small businesses that are on here, some advice or some thoughts here. If you have questions around reinvestment strategies, which typically are related to profit, questions and so on at the end of the year, put those in our December call. I'll try to do the call a little bit earlier next month. Put them in our December call. I can answer some of those. What's a good strategy for reinvestment? Usually, is it to position myself for more revenues next year? Maybe there's a marketing piece or an advertising piece I can gear up and do at the end of the year if I have profits. If I don't have profits, what are some strategies to think about with that? Do I maximize loss with carryback features that some of the tax accounts are saying that can help you with some refund dollars from previous profitable years? There's a lot of strategies there about reinvestment that sort of, now we're not tax accountants, but they're simple sort of general profit thought processes at the end of a year. So happy to help people with any of those. So today I wanted to give some updates too. I can officially say that our PPP loan was forgiven. Not just by the bank, but by the SBA. SBA forgave ours yesterday, officially. So it is getting done. If you followed it right, you followed the rules, you should get it. So get those in. I don't think there's any reason to hold. Some accounting firms are saying hold. I think it's because they're unclear. My thoughts are get it done, get it out before the government says, well, wait, we want more information or this or that. Just get it done. That's my belief. So let's start on with the questions here. First question comes from Marlena Carter. What are some things to do in order to prepare to sell a business? Business description. Dog grooming salon in operation for 8 years. Are there things to do that will increase value and expedite the process? Even the thought of determining the value is a challenging concept for me. So, Marlena, there is a ton to unpack here, okay? So let me sort of stepwise this through. So first of all, selling a business is a complicated process because there's a lot of scenarios around value, around what are you looking to do, the timing, your expectation, the true market expectation. Is it a strategic buying scenario? Is it a financial buying scenario? Does your market usually see consolidation? I'll give you an example. Advertising agencies. Historically, at least for the last, call it 20 years, advertising agencies is a very known path to expand in a certain niche of marketing, potentially digital marketing now or others, affiliated marketing. Expand, get to a certain level of EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, get to a certain level, get a multiplier on that EBITDA from a strategic or a financial buyer, and get out. That is a path for agencies, advertising or digital agencies. So in your case, a dog grooming salon. I am not sure what the market is for that. So I would assess that first because, and I don't know how big you are. If you're north, your profits, your EBITDA are a factor. So let me explain that. So you have a good record. You've been in this 8 years. First question to you is, what's your timing? When do you want to sell? Do you want to sell now? Do you want to sell in 2 or 3 years when you hit a certain mark that you're comfortable with? What is your timing? And then with that timing, what's your expectation? Meaning, I want $1 million, or I want $5 million, or I want, like, where is your head at with what you think you can get from the business? And then there's a reality on whether that's the case or not. So you got to set your expectation, and then you should do some research. What happens in that industry? Call some brokers. Is this a typical consolidation play? Is in the area you're in, the state, or wherever you are, is a dog grooming salon? Is there a bigger player maybe that wants to come into your area and expand their services? So look at that, and pull all those pieces together. But let me give you some financial sort of landscape here. Multipliers, or value on the EBITDA of a business, which is one way to calculate it, a multiplier on your EBITDA. Example, you make $300,000 a year of EBITDA, and you sell your business at 4 times that. That would be a $1.2 million value on your business. Okay? Those type of valuations, as you get bigger, they increase. So as your EBITDA goes up, your chance for better multiples go up. So you might only be able to sell at a 3 times EBITDA multiplier. I know of a business that is doing $500K in revenue, for example, with about 150 EBITDA. They're selling it 2.9 to 3 times EBITDA. Once you get to $1 million EBITDA, you might be able to sell that same business for 4 to 5 times EBITDA. That same business, or yours, for example, at 3 million EBITDA, might sell for 6 to 8 times. So you get a multiplying effect the higher your profits are as you get into the millions of EBITDA. So that's a factor on the size of your business. Now, if it's one dog grooming salon, I'm assuming your EBITDA is in the hundreds of thousands. I could be wrong. So I would expect a 2 to 4 multiplier at most, in most cases there. Then you got to look, is it strategic or financial buyer? So if it's strategic, there might be some value there because you're small, that they want to add your 300K EBITDA to their bottom line because it takes them. They compile a bunch of these guys, and now they're at 2 million EBITDA. So on your acquisition, they're actually going to make 5-6 times EBITDA, whereas just you might get 3. So they're going to give you that a little more value for that EBITDA. So that's something to think about. And financial buyers typically don't like EBITDAs under $1 million. So be careful there, because you could get taken for a little bit of a ride. And what I've seen in the past on small company buys is sometimes the acquirer will say, here's an offer, we'll buy you for $1 million. And then they say, at the close of the deal, we're going to do a net working capital adjustment. Not to get too financial heavy here, but they might say, you might carry a certain amount of inventory for what you do, or you might carry, I don't know, this much AR on a normal basis, accounts receivable. And they might say, yeah, we'll give you $1 million. And then they'll look at your business and say, well, at the time of sale, your AR was here, low, your inventory was here, and we have to adjust your net working capital, so we're actually taking off your price because we need to reinvest in the business to bring those numbers back up to get our cash flow where it needs to be. There's so many nuances of this, so you got to be very careful who you work with when trying to sell a business. You want to make sure that person knows what they're talking about. And if you have any assets, you should evaluate what those might be worth. And maybe you have consistent revenue. Maybe you have good recurring clients that will probably stay on, that you can highlight. Things like that. So make a narrative. Take everything into consideration. Don't get crazy out of line with your expectation on what you'll get. And then figure out the best time for him to go to market and try to see if people are willing to buy your organization. So that's again, lot to pull apart there, but hope that was helpful. So next question was from Benjamin Mira. Question: what are some of the ways accounting bookkeeping practices use to advertise and get more clients. The business description: we are a digital bookkeeping and CFO business that wants to double our revenue as fast as possible by signing up new monthly clients. And we specialize in the fiat and crypto game. Well, Benjamin, first of all, that's awesome that you specialize in the crypto world. I mean, if you haven't seen the other day, Bitcoin was at a high again, got over 18,000. So if you're in the crypto world, you probably have a definite niche market of people that are interested in your services. So I would exploit that, because arguably Bitcoin and others are only getting Ethereum and whatever others are out there in that crypto world are only getting more popular. And if you really stay cutting edge, I mean, I know a little bit about this, but you might be able to even use some technology to your advantage in that world. So kudos to you. I mean, we are not an advertising and marketing group. We are a finance group. So your question's a little bit tricky. I think it was centered, pushed over to us because we are a CFO advisory group. We build our business on word of mouth. So I think for you, word of mouth is still a big thing, especially since you're niched. Maybe there's conventions or things around that you can go to. Maybe there are some lead services you could use that could target you precisely into that arena because you're so niched. You could really hone in on that, which is probably a good idea. Maybe there are strategic relationships with lenders or banks or other scenarios that, or even cryptocurrency groups that might want to say, "Oh, well, we got the right one for you. Go with these guys." But I mean, that's probably your best bet. I would go with direct messaging and stick within your niche, because there are a plethora of bookkeeping services out there, and even some that incorporate a little bit of what you're calling CFO tie-in. I'm sure that's reporting function and so on that you're speaking of there, which is great. But I think that that's the best I could tell you. Hopefully that was helpful. Next question is from Gabriel Suarez. Question asks, looking for suggestions or advice on sourcing non-traditional or non-SBA financing options for my franchisees. Loans anywhere from $75K to $150K. Business description. My franchise model includes the sale of CBD oil. Most traditional lenders, such as major banks or the SBA, will not offer financing to our franchisees. I need help finding alternative financing solutions for our franchisees. Even a lead to someone very experienced in this field may be able to help me is appreciated. So, Gabriel, this is certainly a tricky field. I mean, this is not in a political stance at all, but the fact that you have well, not certified yet, but an elected government that is now Democratic on the executive branch and in the House, you might have a better chance of getting some national leniency on some loan constructs here soon for that industry. But I know very well what you're dealing with. Actually, I've worked with some cannabis-related companies, and even if they're related, like some products that are in the industry, they struggle to get financing or get even bank accounts. So I understand it. So the tricky thing is alternative financing is, I mean, difficult. I don't work with many alternative financing people that would necessarily service your industry. I work with some lenders that are factoring lenders. So if you have AR and you wanted somebody who can look at some factoring, that's an avenue, because they might look at that as a asset, and because you don't have bank interference, you don't have a credit line, or you don't have banks leaning your AR, sometimes factoring groups will take that first position on your AR, and I think they're less tied they'll still underwrite it, but they're less tied to the constructs of banking. So you might get some avenues there. I have a great guy who I can introduce you to if you'd like. Let me know offline, and I will, who does factoring. Typically bigger deals, so I don't know what you're looking at, but he might know somebody for you. So if that's an avenue, you should look at that. If you have accounts receivable. Another avenue is just straight up alternative lending in the sense of, those, what's some names of them that are out there? There's a bunch. Cabbage, for example, with a K. Cabbage is a good one. And they're very expensive, almost predatory in some ways. Cabbage is an okay one. They charge you fees and then they interest and so on. But some others can be really costly for that. So for a franchisee construct, I worry about that. But if you find a good relationship that's willing to give you, a lower interest scenario, maybe between, 8 to 10% or 8 to 12%, with minimal fees, I would jump all over it. So I know these guys I used to know, don't know them as well now, but out in Colorado, they're called Bridge West CPAs. I talked with a couple guys maybe 2.5, 3 years ago. Bridge West CPAs in Colorado, when Colorado first went recreational, and they are a good group. They might have some context for you, and they know the ins and outs there. So I could probably find my old notes and introduce you there as well. Let me know if that's helpful. That's all I got for you. Next question. Lindsay Lannon. Question. What are the best credit cards to get for a business bank account? Business description. I own a chocolates company, and I want to know more about setting up an account for my business. There are a lot of options, and I was curious as to what was the best path to take. So those are kind of two questions in there, Lindsay. So I'm assuming you're saying, well, credit cards, but you're also saying a bank account, I guess. I'm not sure with your questions there. But so this is very, very early on. You sound like you're just sort of getting into it here. I would recommend a no-fee bank account. There are plenty out there. I mean, nowadays, it's all done online. I'm sure you know that. Go with no fee. Locally here in Philadelphia, we have a great small bank called Mid-Penn. I'm happy to refer you for a checking setup there. They're all remote. They have a great system. But I'm sure you can find any bank that has that and get no fees when you're this early. As far as credit cards, depends on your volume, what you're trying to achieve. I mean, I used Amex, I think it was an Amex Purple card, American Express Purple card before. Gave me a choice of 1.5% or 2% back, or a deferral construct if I ran into cash flow problems. So it was one or the other. That was a great thing to have. The deferral piece is real nice. So if you're going to get a credit card, I would recommend that it has a deferral piece with a lower interest scenario, if possible. A deferral piece or a lower interest scenario. Or the bank you go with might have a credit card. That is good. Typically, when you open a bank account and you're just starting out, you're not going to get too much credit. But you could get 10,000 or 15,000 maybe on a credit card if your credit is good and you've done this before. So those are some thoughts on setting it up. I hope that was helpful. Lindsay Lannon is asking a second question. She's saying, do you invest in your business, buy a house, or work towards paying off loans first? Or can you do a combination of both? What is the best way to utilize the money I've set aside? So, Lindsay, that is a very kind of information short question. Without knowing all of those scenarios, I really couldn't give you any advice. But with what you told me, I would say that almost in every case, if you are starting a business and you have a business model that is profitable with high gross margins or reasonable gross margins from what you're selling, then I would say invest the money in your business. Now, that's coming from a guy who owns his own business who also believes in, leverage and using your business for that purpose. But it depends on what stage of life you're in. Like if you need to save money for a house, because it can be hard to get a house if you own your own business. If you don't have enough W-2 income, if you don't. So plowing in your business might make it a little illiquid to pull it back out to buy a house or put the money down for a house. So timing is such an issue there for you. If you have other loans to pay off first, it depends on the cost of capital. How much are those loans? If they're 20% credit card or 20% high loans, that's high cost. You might want to pay some of that down. But again, what is your goal? Look at your return on investment. Look at your margins. I mean, if you have a 50% margins on your product, and if you take $20,000 of your savings or your money here, invest in your products, and that is a 5-to-1 return, as an example, marketing dollars or spend or whatever, 5-to-1 return in sales, that would mean you would get $100,000 in sales. If your GP is 50%, that's $50,000 return on a $20,000 investment. So that's humongous. You won't get that anywhere else. You won't invest it in a house and get that in a year, and I'm talking about a year construct. You won't get that by paying down 20% interest debt. That will be a humongous way to get a return on your dollars. But I don't know your setup. So you should map that out. You should look at that. You should have confidence in that. Taking macro things aside, like COVID or other things that could blow up, maybe your supply chain. You said you get ingredients from direct trade farms. Maybe your supply chain blows up in cost, so the money you thought you were going to get erodes. I mean, there are so many factors here to put into play. So what's your risk tolerance, and what are you willing to essentially lose in the business versus paying down loans or putting in your house? So that's the way I would look at that. First, evaluate your risk. Hopefully that was helpful, Lindsay. Two good questions. Thank you. All right, last question of the day. I knew this would be a short one. We only have a few questions today, so again, I'm happy to throw a little more time in. If people have questions after this, I'll jump on or answer separately, no problem. Submitter is Stephen Davis. Question: what is your advice regarding how to handle prospects that are solely focused on price? Business description. He has a consulting firm that specializes in human resources. Excuse me. He has a consulting firm that specializes in human resources, workers' compensation, and financial issues that companies face. We represent multiple PEOs, professional employment organizations. And the reason I'm asking this question is that I'm currently dealing with a prospect who is solely focused on price regardless of value. The prospect is a sizable company that has great influence in their industry. Okay. That's a different question than price. Okay. To give you a story, as I was growing my business 3 years ago, we happened to find a local lending institution that I can't name here, but that was attracted to our service to offer paying for our service for 10 clients that they lent money to over a period of 18 months. Actually pay us for 12, but over a period of 18 months was the contract. And they loved our work, and they decided that they wanted to test run this with us to see the results of working with 10 clients. And if it worked, we'd do it again. So I went a little lower on price. So I came down to we do retainer pricing for our model. I came down on price to get the deal. They're a local institution, very well respected in Philadelphia area. And I knew this would lead to, one, great PR for us, two, clients that we needed as we were growing the business, and three, potential for future continued work. So I brought the price down. Arguably, I was losing money on a couple of those clients and breaking even on others, and maybe making a small profit on some. It wasn't a win situation for us. So kick 3 years later, 4 of the clients of the 10 signed on with us after the program was over and are still a client with us, and the price went higher with those as they signed on with us. So that's one. So that's a plus. We had a 40% conversion rate to our normal contract. 2, they just re-upped the contract, and we're starting again this year, 2021, this year coming up, and they accepted our price point going 40% higher, seeing our value, and allowed us to raise our price to what it should be in the next round of the contract. So, what's your time horizon on this? If this is key strategic development for your business, and you got to go lower in price, and so, as you noted, some of those, there might be more future referral business from that industry, and this is a sort of an into the industry, go for it. Go lower. Absolutely 100%. Work for me. You got to provide the value when you get in there, regardless of the price. So be ready to be able to do that. Maybe you need some backup, some capital and support to do that. But if this is part of your 3-year strategic plan to expand your services and your revenue, great. Do it. It can work. So I'm all about it. But one other thing to think about with that is, so what are you selling? So you're selling human resources, workers' comp, and some other pieces you were mentioning there in sort of the financial world. That's obviously highly competitive. I mean, I alone work with many of those organizations for our clients, probably 3 or 4 just off the top of my head. Very competitive. So how do you compete in that industry? Sure, price, okay? But service is another. I like to work with people that have good service for our client base. So I push our clients to paying a little more for the better service so that problem is taken care of. So if you go the service model, you can charge a little more and then forget about the clients that are worried about price, except for strategic to get you into more industries, as we discussed. Forget about it. Go premium pricing. Maybe you set up 2 businesses. Maybe there's SUD Consulting Class A and Class B. Class A is the premium product and service level, and Class B is the, churn and burn service level, and the low cost level. It could be that, if that's feasible for you. And then maybe there's some tech or internal processes you can develop. I mean, there's a lot of things out there that can bring your internal costs down so that you can do both service and lower price and be a little bit disruptive in some of those areas in the industry. I know that's hard for a startup, but if you can, then amazing. Do it. So I think that's really what you have to decide in your strategic plan. But I am all about a bigger tag-in for future development of consistent revenue at a lower cost. So I think that's about all I got there. Hopefully that was helpful. And that's it for the questions today. Again, I will be available in December for reinvestment thought process, so please think about that for your businesses. And get those PVPs forgiven, man. Get them out of there. Hope everyone has a good Thanksgiving holiday. Stay safe, please. This COVID thing is exploding again. And let's all get vaccinated and have a great summer. Get 2020 out of here. Have a good day, everybody. Talk soon.